Good afternoon, everybody. How's it going out there? Everybody ready for the showdown? Yes, we've got a showdown. There's Jeff. We've got a showdown between Google and Microsoft. This is something we get asked constantly, all the time. Josh, I think the same thing. I love that music. Esther chose it. It's pretty damn awesome, actually. So yeah, we get this question all the time: Google or Microsoft? And there's a lot to this question because there's functionality in each. And today we're going to talk about their security features because each one has done a whole lot to bolster their security game over the last bunch of years. So let me just do a little introduction here. I'm Norman Dweck, CIO with RCS Professional Services. And let's see, we are the ones who, well, VCIO and CIO, we're the ones who go out and meet with all the clients, point out where they have risk and plan future projects, stuff like that. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to introduce Jeff because he is the founder of the company and he will tell us a bit about the company. So, Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Norman, as usual. So excited for this one. Jeffrey Tabelli, the founder of RCS Professional Services. We are a managed service provider. We do anything and everything IT for businesses. We have offices in New York City and Atlanta, Georgia, and we're really excited to bring this to you today. So, where should we start, Norm?
Let's see.
I'd like to just touch on, right? So these products, Google and Microsoft Office 365, they've been around for years and years now, right? And when you think of Office 365 or you think of Google, the first thing that comes to your mind is the productivity apps, right? You got your Excel, you got Google Sheets, you got Google Docs, you got Microsoft Word, you have Gmail, you have Outlook. Those are all productivity applications. That's really not what we're going to be focusing on today. They're both awesome, and they do great jobs at what they do. Obviously, some people prefer one or the other. But again, they're great products. But we're going to talk a little bit more around what a lot of laymen don't necessarily know around the security components of these suites, right? So there's all sorts of features and benefits that you could leverage as far as security goes. And let's talk about that, Norman. Like, when you think security, what do you think?
Oh, I think so. Naturally, because I meet with all the clients, I have this broken down in my head at this point. But firstly, thanks, Joshua. And thanks, Steve. And yeah, how you doing, Nitia? All right, let's get this going. There we go. So when I think security, I think I don't want to get hacked. My client, I don't anybody, none of my clients to get hacked. And when I think of security, I think of it in a number of different realms. There's the thing we've all known for the longest time, which is email security. I mean, that one goes back forever. The idea of antivirus, anti-spam in your email, that one goes back for decades at this point. There is endpoint security, because I happen to have just mentioned antivirus. Is my computer itself, my endpoint. That's what an endpoint is. My computer, which I'm actually pointing to right now, is that thing secure? Can that thing get hacked? Can I get a virus? Then I've got a newer sort of concept, which is my identity. Is my identity secure? When I log on to something, is that log on secure? Is it me logging on? Is my identity getting hacked so that they can log on to all of my stuff? And then the fourth thing is back to my devices, mobile device management. Can my device be managed with some management interface so that if the thing gets lost, if the thing gets lost, I can take action based on that. Or if I want to set policies on that thing so that, who knows, maybe I don't want to be able to copy and paste from my work stuff to my personal stuff. Policies like that. So those are my four areas. Well, there's kind of a fifth area, and that's data loss prevention. And that's the idea of your data leaving the organization, whether it be by mistake or maliciously, as in someone in your organization decides to email someone's, I don't know, credit card data outside the organization. That could be for good reasons or bad reasons. So those are my
well said. Well said, well said. And now with all these basic, like since the pandemic, the whole work from anywhere became a huge trend that has we've been right in the middle of. And cybersecurity, right? All these hacks, cyber attacks, and ransomware attacks, and email compromising, and wire fraud, and all this stuff, right? So it's really front and center between those two uh, basic major trends that have been happening for the last couple of years. So I think let's get to it, right?
Let's do it.
Google or Microsoft?
Let's just answer it right now and be done with this.
Just to go on the record, we leverage both platforms in our organization. We started out as a G Suite shop for the first 10 years of our existence, maybe first 15, and then we migrated to Office around, I don't know, was it 5 years ago, something like that? Don't
No,
remember exactly.
it's so hard. The whole timeline of the world is a problem now. It must have been more than
Yeah.
5 years ago, I think.
So we use both is what I'm getting at. So let's take it away.
All right,
Go
let's do
for it,
this.
Norm. Where should we start?
Let's start with email security. That's one people are familiar with.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? What does Microsoft have in the way of email security, and what does Google have or not have?
Well, let's see. This goes back to where were we with email security? We had antivirus on your emails, anti-spam on your emails. They were working fine. And then, of course, because it's a cat and mouse game, hackers got better at things. And what they started doing is things like sending you an email that had a link in it. Antivirus is not going to catch that sort of thing because there's nothing to scan. It's just a link. It can go anywhere. So they started putting links in emails. You click on the link, it takes you to a bad website, and great, now you've got a problem on your computer. They started putting attachments into emails. That you'd think that one would be an easy one to catch, but no, because what they were doing was delaying the payload on that. So you'd open the attachment, everything would seem fine. 10 minutes later, your computer would explode. So in just those two areas alone, let's see, Microsoft has got their safe links, safe attachments. Both of those take care of the things I just mentioned. Safe links, it at click time takes a look at the website and says, okay, that website's good. You can go to it. In fact, I can see it in our emails when I click on a link, or if I click on a link from Teams, it's the same thing. I get a web page. First thing it says is verifying link, and then a second later it goes to the website. Attachments, safe attachments, Microsoft's got that. Both of these are actually in Defender for Office 365 Plan 1.
So talking about plans, Microsoft is a little bit more on the complicated side in terms of what you can buy and how you could buy it. Google seems to be, in my opinion, a little bit simpler. They have like a good, better, and best option, and Microsoft you can slice and dice and buy. But this specific thing that Norman just mentioned, Defender for Office Plan 1,
Yeah,
is included with I think their business premium, which is around $22 a month, or is it
that's
included
correct.
with standard these days?
It's
Okay.
in Business Premium. Nothing's included in Business Standard. See, that's the real
Okay. And
difference
then,
between their offering. So on Microsoft's side, if you want an email account, you would get Business Basic. If you want an email and apps, you'd get Business Standard. The thing with those two licenses are there's no security in those things. It's just,
zero.
well, it's default security. And so it's
Right.
the default Exchange Online protection, which actually doesn't have the two things I mentioned. And I'm going to get to account takeover, which is another level of protection. But on Google's end, you get Google Workspace Business. Yeah, you get
Business Plus is going to include all the extra bells and whistles, which I think goes for around $18 per user per month.
yes,
And you
and then
have
you
to
get everything.
upgrade. You get everything, and all the users need to be on the same license in the Google world. On
Correct.
Microsoft, you could have some on one and some on
Mix and
another.
match. Correct.
Obviously, yeah, you wanna have a best practice and try and standardize wherever possible. So we're saying within email, I think both of them do a great job. We've been in business for over 20 years. and spam was a huge issue, and it still is. And you used to have to bring in third-party providers like AppRiver spam protection, or Mimecast, or Barracuda, or all these things. The bottom line is those things aren't really needed as much as they once were. When everyone had free load to basically email spam, constantly to all accounts. Microsoft and Google do a pretty good job natively. In my opinion, not much of a reason to have to add a third party. Do you think so?
No, I agree. I agree. And
Okay.
I'm seeing that Steve has mentioned simpler. I'm sure he's talking about Google, but is it as effective as Microsoft? And I remember from our time with Google, it was a great product, and I
Yeah.
can see it with our clients. The product itself, as far as email protection, it's very good.
Yeah.
If you
So,
would, one thing I can tell you that Google doesn't have, that Microsoft does have, if you get Defender for Office 365 Plan 2, okay, so there's Plan 1, and then there's the next level, which is Plan 2. If you get Plan 2, you get everything that has Plan 1 also. So it's not like you buy one or the other. You get Plan 1 or you get Plan 2. In Plan 2, there is user security awareness training. Why is this so important? Because you can put all of the protections you want on something. But if a user doesn't know to look for certain things, I mean, things you're going to get by the filters, especially in the age of now, Chat GPT, where these things can be used to write emails that would not get flagged by a spam or an antivirus filter or any of these filters. It doesn't look like, Nigerian prince asking me for money. It looks like a real email. So what user security awareness training does is it sends out fake emails, fake phishing emails to people. It shows up to users, and it shows up in their inbox, and it keeps track of whether they clicked on the thing or not. Did they open it? Did they click on it? When they clicked on it, did they put in their when they clicked on the link, did they put in their credentials into the website? It tracks all of these things, and you can run these campaigns to see how people are doing. And when they fail, it gives them some training. So it'll say, oh, hey, you weren't supposed to click on this. This was a test. Take a look at this training. This is what you need to look for in the future, which is a great thing because, I mean, you can have your people sit down and watch a video or like watch a webinar, but if you're constantly, teaching them as you're moving forward,
uh-huh,
that's going to help everyone. And Microsoft,
100%.
Google does not have that.
Yeah,
So
and there's popular products like Know Before is probably the market leader on user awareness training. And when we, in our MSP and for our clients, we like to try and consolidate down to, as little products as possible to reduce complexity. So it's nice that it's built into the Microsoft ecosystem. Of course, you have to be on the right subscription and all that, but it is a common product that businesses invest in. And we did a great webinar, actually. Norman, you did a great job. It feels like a couple of years ago, when we went over how to identify and what to look for on an email. You could check it on our website. We did an awesome tutorial on that. But what's next? Where do we go next with security? I feel like there's so much to talk about here.
yeah, there is. We really should. Where we at? Wow, let's keep moving. Okay. Account. By the way, account takeover protection super important. Again, in Office 365 Plan 2. So let's see. And yes, thank you. Education and practice is the key. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, RSC.
Learning is fundamental.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about. I want to talk about endpoint security. Sure,
We
let's
could
talk
talk
about
about it. So let's talk about endpoint security. I'm dating myself here, but when I think endpoint security, I think McAfee or Norton. Is there more stuff out there these days?
No, that's it. It ended with McCaffrey. Nothing new ever happened.
Right. So endpoint security. Endpoint security in a nutshell, from my purview, is you want to protect your operating system from getting breached, compromised, whatever it is, right? So that's your Mac devices, your Windows devices. Those are the majority of them. So what do we got for endpoint security?
Right. So
So
where
so
are
this
we?
you don't even need to be with Google or Microsoft for endpoint security, right? You could use Huntress, you could use Bitdefender, you could use anything and everything. There's tons of
Yeah, all these guys.
agents that you could load on your computer to protect your computer. The choices are probably in the hundreds, I would say. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the Google component of endpoint security or the Microsoft component? So Microsoft, their endpoint security. So Microsoft likes to complicate their product names and make them all sound the same, but you're going to hear the word Defender a lot. Norman said Microsoft Defender for Office Plan 1 and Plan 2, right? And then you have Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Plan 2. So go and explain what those are, because that's above my pay grade.
So let's say you want an antivirus piece of antivirus software on your computer. That's Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Plan 2. And what you get, and this you're actually going to see this as you move in the Microsoft universe from your Plan 1s to your Plan 2s. Your Plan 1 in this case will get you a lot of management, whereas your Plan 2 will get you a lot of the investigative features, which happens to be, you might be thinking, well, once my computer got a virus, why do I need investigation? But yes, you actually do need investigation, because you need to know, A, how that thing happens, doesn't happen again, B, where it went. It's not only your computer. It can jump from computer to computer. It can make its way around the organization. We need to know that. So Microsoft's got Defender for Endpoint, Plan 1, Plan 2. You load Defender on your computer. In fact, there's the free Defender, which is on all Microsoft computers at this point. And it's a great product. It came from, in classic Microsoft fashion, came from nowhere, as in not really an awesome product. And they kept at it. And as of like 2-3 years ago, I think, it became, like, on tests and everything, a really good product. And now it's just a great product. On the Google side, this, I would say, is maybe a deficiency in Google. They do not have an endpoint security. It's understandable why they don't have an endpoint security, because Google's thinking, we live online, we live in the cloud. Whereas Microsoft still has that, both things of, we have the computers that we've, provided operating systems for so long, and we're in the cloud. So Google doesn't have an endpoint security product.
They do have a partnership. I guess they're trying to play catch up, right? Microsoft and Google announced earnings last night, and I tend to like listen to this stuff. Google's cloud business, I think, is like 7 billion or something, and for the quarter, I think I forget the exact number. And Microsoft is like 26 billion right now. So Google is playing a lot of catch up, right? G Suite's been around for a very long time and is a great product that many companies use, right? But in terms of the rest of the stuff, they're trying to catch up to Microsoft, right? Everyone knows Amazon Web Services and all that, and that's more, for infrastructure as a service. But all these types of things, I feel like Google's a little behind. So right now they have a partnership with a company called Cybereason, and that's what they're doing for endpoint security right now, meaning antivirus on Macs and Windows PCs type of stuff. And there's antivirus is really an outdated term that doesn't really exist anymore. Do we want to explain the whole EDR, MDR, XDR thing in under 2
We want
minutes?
to go
Because
into those letters, those
I
words?
don't want to geek out on this, but let's just explain it, because Microsoft does almost all of it, if not all of it. But just explain the different levels of antivirus these days.
Okay, so there's your classic antivirus, right? Where there might be a virus on your, someone tries to load a virus onto your computer somehow, and the antivirus sees that and it kills it. Okay. Then there is the idea of, what if something's going on my computer that's not a virus? What if there's some sort of hacker, in my computer that's not a virus? Someone just happens to have gotten in. Now, how am I going to know what's going on? And this is where the idea of EDR comes in, and MDR, and XDR, all these things. what's going on with EDR? EDR is it's gathering a whole bunch of other information from the computer and it's bubbling it up to some sort of management interface. And in that interface, it's saying, hey, this event happened, that event happened, this event happened, and that event happened. And it needs someone to go through it and say, okay, that's innocuous, that's innocuous. This one's important. It looks like there's some sort of hacker on that machine. So that's the next level of antivirus. I'm looking at the machine. It doesn't have a virus, but there may be something more wrong with it. And that's where EDR comes in. MDR, as you may have just realized, because I said you have to go through all those logs, and who wants to do that? The M in MDR stands for managed, which means that a company with an AI will be taking a look at this. So they have an AI that takes a look at it, bubbles up things that could be a problem to humans. Humans take a look at it and say, okay, yeah, this is a problem. You need to do something about this. So that's your EDR.
Many companies do that, right? Like the Huntresses of the world and CrowdStrike and all, right? That if you look at cybersecurity in the stock market, some of the leaders there, right? That's all emerging technology that's being rapidly and massively deployed across the whole computing landscape, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's too much to look at. It's too much for companies to look at, right? You could spend all day looking at logs, hundreds of thousands of people. Too much information.
Notices, yes.
And then what's the highest level? Then let's move on from here.
The highest level is XDR, which is the idea of I'm not just getting information from the computers, I'm getting information from the other things in the network. I'm getting information from the switches, I'm getting information from the firewalls, I'm getting information from everything in the environment. And in Microsoft's case, in the Microsoft 365 environment, which is the cloud, getting information from all of that so that I can see if there is a hacker in the network. That's
okay.
Well, that's XDR. Before I go further, though, Steve's got a great question, because I mentioned that maybe Google hasn't really jumped into antivirus so hard. I mean, they have that partnership, so I'm a bit wrong on that. But maybe they haven't jumped in so hard because everything's web-based in Google. And his question is, but if Google's all web-based, do you need endpoint security? So, Jeff, as the owner of a support company, do we need endpoint security?
Well, it's a great point, right? First off, if all your data is in the cloud and you've, further along in your cloud journey than other companies, 100%. Not everyone is in the cloud. There's SQL applications on premise. There's still servers and closets. We're trying to minimize and get rid of that as much as possible. And even if it's not physical, it could be virtual on Azure infrastructure or Google infrastructure. So still have these physical computers. Offices still do exist, and if a computer gets compromised, it could just basically kill the entire network, ransomware attacks, X, Y, and Z. If you were entirely in the cloud, I mean, he does bring up a great point, right? What's the worst that could happen? They kill the machine? I mean, it's about...
The worst that can happen is you lose productivity because the machine doesn't work. You got to get to the cloud somehow. So I may as well protect the machine that's getting to the cloud.
Right. So I think we touched enough on endpoint. Microsoft product is in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, from what I believe, meaning it's the best of the best.
It is.
So you're not sacrificing.
That was as of a couple of years ago.
It's not skimping on quality there by not going with a CrowdStrike or a Huntress or whoever else lives in that quadrant, and just Google doesn't have it. So I guess let's move on from here. Identity is a very...
Well, wait, sorry. That Cybereason thing, that's an XDR partnership. Is it pulling things down from? I guess it's. I'm not super familiar with the Cybereason thing.
Yeah.
Is it enough? And enough is like enough, but.
I mean, we never took that product out of the garage, right? We haven't personally tried it, but it's supposed to be on par with the Defender suite.
Okay, nice.
Identity.
Ooh, and identity is one I happen to really like.
It's the best. Nothing like a great identity.
Yeah, I happen to have to explain this one in our meetings all the time. All right, I have an identity. Yeah.
Let's
So
let's
okay.
let's explain what identity is. You could take that one.
All right. So I've got my log on. I log on to my email. I log on to whatever. I've got all these. I'm logging on to things, right? And I'm logging on with a username and password and hopefully MFA. And that's your identity. It's that bit that you're logging on to things, all those logons. That's essentially the identity and the security that's needed on that. So I actually just mentioned the first two levels of security. The one you know classically, which is having your password. You have a username, you have a password. Great, I'm in. Then you got your next level of, well, passwords really aren't enough at this point. So we've got multi-factor authentication. I've got something I know, my password, and I've got something I am or with me, which is my phone. They text me a code. I tap on a thing that says, yes, I can log in. However we do MFA, great. And then, which is okay, and that's nice. So that's your identity. Do we got that, right? That's identity. It's how you log on to things. Great.
Right, but it's also is identity within the suite, right? You got your Google Workspace or you got your Microsoft Office, but then there's identity from all these other sources that you tap into, right?
Yeah.
And Microsoft and Google do have identity products that can serve as the master for all these systems to log into, right? Do we want to explain the concept
Yes.
of?
Okay. So
Okay.
let me first explain why I would need more than just username and password and my MFA code. There is the concept of identity protection, I think is what Microsoft calls their product. And what it is Microsoft is taking a look at so much more than just your login. There's the idea of, okay, I got my login, I logged in my username, password, put it in my MFA, and I'm in. No, Microsoft takes that a step further. They say, let me take a look at that login. Where did that login come from? Did it come from New York and then come from London 10 minutes later? You can't get from New York to London in 10 minutes. It's an impossible travel. So they would be looking at that and flagging that as not so kosher a login. Did the login come from an anonymous IP? Most people don't use anonymous IPs. You know who uses anonymous IPs? Hackers. Did it come from, say, a Tor browser? In your normal work life, you're not using a Tor browser. That's another thing. It's like, more in the hacker realm. There's all kinds of things they look for around that login just to be sure that that login is correct, and it will flag the ones that it does not feel so good about. In fact, you can set all kinds of rules, like if there's a questionable login, make them reset their password. You can set all kinds of different rules. So that's an awesome thing. And now you mentioned that last bit, which is single sign-on. So what is this whole thing of single sign-on, and why is it so great? Single sign-on is great because, so I want to log on to, say, we have a ticketing system. It's the system we use to keep track of all of the things that are going wrong with our clients. Clients email us, we put it in there. This is how we keep track of everything. When I log into that, when that company makes that product, they're making a ticketing product. They're not making a security product. They're making a database that keeps track of tickets. Okay, they're not making a product that says, oh, I need to look at that login, make sure that login is correct and all that, and security and blah blah blah. No, they're making a ticketing system. What would be great is if I could apply all that Microsoft security or Google security I was just talking about to my login to the ticketing system. And that's what SSO does. When I set it up, I'm basically telling my ticketing system, hey, anytime someone tries to log into the ticketing system, I want you to forward that login to Microsoft or Google. And me, as the user, when I go to log in to the ticketing system, it sends me to Microsoft or Google. I log in on Microsoft or Google. And what I get out of that is that Microsoft and Google security is now applied to that login. Great. So I told you about all that stuff that Microsoft has and that Google has. all of that got applied to that login to the ticketing system. Remember, that ticketing system is a ticketing system. They're not worried about security. You got the username, password, you're in. But no, now I've got all of that security that's, to the nth level applied to that login. And it's even better because I only have to remember one username and password. Or in the case of passwordless login, I have to remember no usernames and
I'm loving passwordless login, by the way.
what?
No, I said I'm loving passwordless
Oh, that's
login.
great.
Just
I love it.
yeah. So yeah, so basically you're saying with single sign-on, we would, if we have a potpourri of cloud products at this point, like so many, maybe dozens at this point, but between Dropbox, Adobe Creative Cloud, Box, QuickBooks, anything that you could log into, your IT could basically kind of marry it to this Microsoft security system, and then users will only have to have one password, right?
Exactly.
So it's more secure and easier.
Yes.
Okay. So Google does a good job at this as well. They have a product called Google Cloud Identity, and it is included with the Business Plus, like I said, that $18 one. And it is included with Microsoft. It's called Azure Active Directory. And again, just to confuse things, there's a plan one, there's a plan two. The business premium, which is their $22 a month package, which includes Microsoft Office, so you do get a good bit of value there. Google doesn't really have any Office applications on the desktop. Everything is in the browser, right? Or am
That's
I?
correct. That's
That's
correct.
correct, right? So not everyone loves that. So you do get more value for your money from that perspective. People still love their Excel. But Google Cloud Identity is included with the Business Plus product, and it does a good job.
Yeah, and that's again, it's kind of just easier on the Google side. I get this one thing and it has all these things. Yay! I have to go and
Yeah, from the
find out which license do I need?
description.
Plan one, plan two,
Yeah,
which vendor? It's a whole
yeah.
thing.
Microsoft likes to make it confusing.
And
Okay,
on
so
that on that subject of this one, so this one's called Defender for what is it?
identity.
No, it's actually called Azure Active Directory, just to make it even more interesting. This one doesn't even have the word Defender in it. Azure Active Directory. There is a Defender for what's it called? For identity? No, am I
Yeah,
getting mixed up? But there's Azure Active Directory Plan One, Plan Two. Plan One gives you a whole bunch of MFA stuff. Plan two takes you to the next level and gives you identity protection, which was all of that it's looking at around the login. All that it looks at all the other information, and furthermore, like I said, with the other Plan two products, uh, Azure Active Directory Premium Plan two has the investigative stuff, which I can tell you, Tim loves because this one's really important. On an identity, you really need to know what happened if there
for
was an
sure.
issue, or if someone thinks there was an issue.
There is one thing, and kind of segueing to mobile device management, but one thing that Microsoft will provide you if you use Windows computers in your company is the identity for the login to the computer, meaning when you turn on your computer in Windows, it is leveraging those Microsoft Office 365 credentials, so that you still, that authentication is happening through this Azure Active Directory on the computer itself. It doesn't quite work with Macs. Macs still use, Apple IDs and stuff like that, unless I'm mistaken. Am I mistaken on that, Norman?
You can join a machine, you can join a Mac to Azure Active Directory, but I don't think you can take over that login. I don't think you can. I've never
And
seen
then
it.
for business, not that we run into many, but if you're in the Chromebook world, then there's really like no need for this stuff, right? So if you did decide to run your business with Chromebooks, which is the Google, laptops and desktops and stuff like that, then there's really nothing to do in that situation, right? You just Google all the way.
Right, and that's the simplicity of Google products, right? If I have a Chromebook, it's easy. It's all set up and it's all ready to go, and it's available online. And it's the same thing with something like Google's spreadsheet product. It's great. It works in the browser. I think it's great. I've used it extensively, and it's there. I just load up a browser web page, and it's great. I'm ready to go. All of that, and it's living all in Google's universe, which means it's constantly being scanned and checked and all of that, which is great.
Right. We see it big in education, but in the workplace, people love their Windows devices or their Apple devices. I mean, so
Yeah, no,
that
they
being
do.
said, let's segue to mobile device management.
Ooh, okay. Let's talk about that. All right.
What is
Right.
mobile device management?
So this is one of those things that started out as, okay, we're just going to keep track of things like phones and stuff. And it it's now expanded into, well, let's just use this for any computers because, I mean, any computer needs this same stuff. So let's see, mobile device management. Mobile device management is the idea of me as the administrator, is keeping track of all of the computers in our organization, and I can do things like locate them where they are physically, wipe them if it gets into the wrong hands. I can set a policy on it to, I don't know, make sure that encryption is on the hard drive. I can do all these things, and this is what mobile device management's about. Of course, the key things there are things like wiping a machine if it got into the wrong hands or the machine got lost. How many
Right.
times
So now with work
you lose a machine? I
work
lost
from
it.
anywhere, I mean, we have clients where, we're shipping machines to homes at this point, and uh, keeping track of those assets and making sure that they cannot be gotten into the wrong hands and all that stuff. Mobile device management really helps with that. And then there's this whole concept of auto enrollment of machines. So mobile device management, post pandemic, has been a huge, tool that businesses use to protect their data and procure and deploy machines easily and support them easily. So, how are we doing with mobile device management? What is Microsoft's mobile device management?
Ooh, no, they both have stuff here. In fact, it's like it's such a back and forth battle on this. I mean, sorry, going back to identity for a second, both of them have that. I mean, Google's, sure, people have seen this. Log on with your Google ID. They've had this forever, so you can use Google to log on to places. You can use Microsoft to log on to places, and now here we are at MDM, and yeah, they both have mobile device managers. Microsoft's called Intune, and Google's is called Google Endpoint Management. And they are both strong offerings that offer a bunch of the things I have talked about. I would say Google's is Google's is great. I think there's a bit of a deficiency there with some of the things you can do on a Mac. Like, I don't think you can do a remote wipe of just files on a Mac. On the Microsoft side, they have, like I said, it's called Intune. And once you get a device into Intune, you can do things like figure out where it is in the world and all the things I mentioned before. You can set all kinds of policies on it. There's this key thing of, I mentioned it just now. Can I wipe? Do I have to wipe a whole machine? Do I have to brick a machine? Or can I just wipe files off of the machine? And they each have different functionality on this one. They can each brick a machine.
I I think they're building their Mac, not iOS. iOS, it's there, right? Like
They've
iOS
got
being
it.
iPhone, iPad,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But Mac operating system doesn't have all the capabilities that Intune, in terms of things that you could do, like remote wipe the computer and stuff like that. But they're investing heavily in it, and I think it's just a matter of time before they're on par. But I feel like there's some features missing on the MDM component. Um,
Yeah, Steve's
what
commenting
about
closed architecture, and that's why some of that functionality is not there.
yeah. So What else? Yeah. What about the concept of data loss prevention? There's elements to data now that all this stuff's
Hang
in
on.
the cloud,
Before we
right?
go further, are there any questions out there that I haven't gotten to? I don't think so. Okay. Moving right along.
So data loss prevention, right? You're a
Ooh.
company, you've been around 10, 5, 1 year, 10, 20 years, whatever it is. There's all this data being produced. You got emails going out, you got emails coming in, you got documents being created, Words, Excels, PDFs, all your workforce is creating all this stuff. And how do we make sure it's safe? How do we make sure it doesn't get into the wrong hands? How do we make sure we don't lose it? There's backup, and then there's data loss prevention, right? So let's touch on that, Norman.
Okay, so which one do you want to start with? Backup, keeping a thing. Am I the only one hearing this music? It's groovy. Okay, back to sorry, musical interlude. Um, back to this. So Google's got Vault, which we're actually going through with one of our clients right now, and Microsoft has Purview. Not the best name ever, but let's talk about Google Vault for a second, because Google Vault is great. It's you can keep track of everything in an organization. What am I saying? Keep track. I mean, keep records, keep a copy of everything. It's not a backup. Don't think of it as a backup because you're not using it to restore files and stuff. But you are holding on to everything. So in like an e-discovery situation, it's got it all. Microsoft has this sort of thing also. And on the subject of data loss prevention, they both have great stuff here. So the way data loss prevention works, it works based on rules. You set rules in the organization, and I mean technical rules, not rules while you're going to set rules, you're going to tell people yes, but you take technical rules that say, oh, if I notice that someone's emailing out a credit card number, I'm going to jump in, me being the computer systems. And there's all kinds of these rules that you can set. You can set a rule that looks for all kinds of PII, like your social security number, who knows, whatever. And it's great. You set these rules in both. They both have this. Microsoft has this, and Google has this. You set these rules, and it's now looking for things and stopping things from getting out of the organization. On Microsoft's end, on Google's end, I've seen those rules, and there's some really, really nice stuff you can do with those rules. They make it really easy to make very strong rules that will stop things. It really
So
is
like
great the way they did it.
mass copying of files and
Oh yeah,
certain things, right?
much more than that. There's mass
Right.
copying files. It's what they're looking for within those files. There's a lot of power in the rules that they can create as far as what they're looking for within those files and those emails, which is great.
Even like copying and pasting, you could limit, right?
Yeah, that goes back to the MDM part. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
okay, for anyone out there who doesn't know, I have set our organization so that if you open up your phone and you try to copy and paste something from, say, Teams into the Apple Notepad, it will not let you do it. Why am I smiling about this? Because I get complaints from Jeff all the time about this. Jeff has to complain to me all the time about this, and I have held my ground. No one's getting information out of RCS.
Meaning if the document lives in Excel, Word, Outlook, anything in that Office suite, you can't copy and paste it outside of the Office suite. So you would
Correct.
have to use Outlook on your phone. You can't use the Mac Mail if you want to copy and paste from Outlook to Word.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. It's staying that way.
Well, does that now maybe say that that's a limitation on Google's part? Can Google prevent that stuff outside of Drive and Gmail and stuff like that?
So it's an interesting situation. I don't know about apps on the phone, but if you think about this in a things live on the cloud way. Well, everything's in Google's cloud. I can stop people from exfiltrating information out of Google's cloud. It's the copy paste. I don't quite know that one, but
Good
yeah,
stuff. We have
everything's
some
living in
homework.
Google's cloud. I can set all kinds of rules as far as things can't
Right,
get out, which is great.
right, right.
On
All right.
Microsoft, as far as doing rules and stuff, they've made it super easy to set up data loss prevention in that they've got a package of rules. They've got a bunch of these packages of rules. And if I say need to be HIPAA compliant, I go into Microsoft Purview and I say, I need to be HIPAA compliant. And it applies a whole bunch of rules to my organization. So I don't have to go and make each rule one by one. I just say, okay, I need to be HIPAA compliant. And it throws a whole bunch of rules on there, which is great.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, data loss prevention. We did a webinar on that. That was
Yes,
fun. You could check it on our website. We did a webinar on, I think, SSO and identity as well. So you can check
that's
that
right.
one in if you want to deep dive. I think we hit most of what we wanted to cover. Is there any questions out there, or anything you guys want to ask, or did we miss over anything, Norman?
No, but I'm laughing at Esther's comment that the subject of DLP needed a little hype music. Yeah, I love it. There it is again. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Is there any questions out there? Who's got a question for me? Us. What do you got? So, by the way, if you're wondering, one or the other, Google or Microsoft, I know we said we would. I just want to tell you guys everything that's going on out there because they both have great offerings and they both have pluses and they both have minuses. And yeah, it's like I remember when we first started doing the research into Google security years ago, I kept running into dead ends. I kept like, I don't understand. I can't find these things. I can't find these things. I can't find these things until it finally we realized I can't find these things because I was thinking in the Microsoft way of there must be a separate license, and it's not the way it is. It's all packaged in there. They've got a whole bunch of these things in there, so it's super easy. On Microsoft's end, yeah, they've got it. This license, that license. You apply these licenses, you've got all kinds of security.
Yeah, yeah. All right, great. This was fun. I'm glad we did it. What's the next one we're doing?
Next month we're back to fish.
Oh, there's a summer tour happening too, so maybe we'll get more people.
That's right. And Goose announced their Europe tour.
Okay, let's hit it.
Yeah.
So we do fish-themed business networking webinars every couple months. So tune into that. Check our website for upcoming webinars. We're going to be releasing some new ones soon, and we're coming up with content ideas as we speak.
In fact, we've got a meeting right after this to come up with content ideas. So if you guys have content ideas, send them in. Yeah, we'd love to see them.
Great presenting to you guys. And thanks so much, Norman.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.